Good afternoon and happy Monday. First Alert Meteorologist Diane Phillips coming to you from the First Alert Weather Desk. We are looking at a fantastic Monday weather-wise, which we are happy for because it makes it easier for us to get into the swing of things. I at least know for me on Mondays, sometimes I need a little more energy to kind of get the week started. So thankfully, the weather is going to be helping us out with that. If you haven't been able to take a trip outside, you are going to find some summer weather starting to move in here this afternoon, and it's going to continue to be sticking around here for the week. Now we will have our astronomical summer starting this weekend, actually Friday at about 9:42 p.m. But if you are just hoping for some summer weather, we're going to have a little bit of an early start for that. So we are going to be talking about the potential of not only the heat, but also some storms that are going to be headed our way this week. If you have been kind of keeping an eye to the forecast here through the weekend and checking in on air, you know that we do have the possibility of a First Alert weather day this week. So we'll talk about when. I'll kind of give you a behind the scenes on what we're tracking and kind of some of the details that our meteorologists are going through and kind of what we're looking at as far as what looks promising and maybe what's a little bit of a hindrance to the forecast for any of those strong storms. So that's what we're going to be watching for. I do want to start out though with this look outside. If you haven't been able to make it out for even just 5 minutes to kind of enjoy the nice weather, you're going to find that here in Houghton Lake, it's a great day to be out on the water. Actually, earlier today, I saw a couple of folks who were out there with their jet skis, and I'm not going to lie, I was a little jealous, wanting to be there having some fun. So we do have a little bit of a breeze. You can kind of see that those trees are shaking a little bit, but overall, it is a pretty nice afternoon. Another location that is enjoying sunshine is basically everywhere in mid-Michigan, but you are going to find here in Mount Pleasant that we do have our sunshine here on campus, looking nice there. Of course, classes are out, but campus is always beautiful for much of the year, so the sunshine definitely make it nice if you want to go and maybe walk around campus and get those steps in. Now, as we go throughout this afternoon, we've been waiting for our temperatures to warm up a little bit, and we have found that we're slowly kind of working our way from the 70s into the 80s. We're currently seeing about 82 in Midland, 83 in Saginaw, 81 in Flint, 80 degrees in Bad Axe. We do still have 77 in Gladwin and 79 in Clare. But yeah, we have Houghton Lake and West Branch that are right around 80, 81 degrees. We still have a little bit of that lake breeze, so Tawas City is reading us at about 57. We have 66 in Port Hope, 64 in Harbor Beach, and 61 in Port Sanilac. So a lot of our water temperatures have been a little bit on the cooler side. I'm actually going to bring up here our marine forecast, and that's going to show that water temperatures are slowly warming. This is just for the bay specifically. We are going to find that the inner bay is around 67 degrees. We have 63 in the outer bay, so it's slowly climbing, but considering that a lot of our water temperatures there into just the bay themselves are into the 60s, a little bit cooler, maybe not for the faint of heart for those who want to go for a swim, but air temperatures are at least also going to be in the 60s if you head out on the water. Our wave heights are also going to thankfully be on the calmer side. We'll be seeing those about 2 feet or less, and we do have the light and variable wind, so that's going to kind of help to keep some of those wave heights down. I know after the weekend, I was talking with some folks about Great Lakes water temperatures and kind of hoping to get some swimming in. So here's a look at the map of current conditions of all of our Great Lakes if you are hoping to maybe go and do a little bit of swimming. But we don't have all the buoys that are in because even the Saginaw Bay buoy is not in for the season. So from the buoys that we have to pick from, of course, Lake Superior always kind of hanging out on the cooler side, which is expected. But some of the buoys there are reading about 38 degrees. As you go into Lake Michigan, kind of the northern portions closer to the Traverse City area, and even on the south side of the UP, that buoy is reading at about 46 degrees. About halfway through in the central portion of Lake Michigan, around 59 degrees, and then 67 a little bit closer towards the shoreline. So getting a little bit closer towards Muskegon, maybe Grand Haven, and then even headed towards closer towards like South Haven. We're starting to see some of those 70s. I've been watching also with those northeast winds. You could have a little bit of upwelling, so we'll see if that happens, but it looks like that hasn't been too much of an issue. Now also, as we move over to Lake here on the southern portion of the lake is seeing water temperatures around 65, but the further north and east you go in the lake, It's pretty chilly there. And we also have Lake Erie around 66. We do have some yellow in that western portion. That portion is also a little bit more shallow, so that can allow for those water temperatures to warm up a little bit better. So as we're going here into the summer season, if you want to do some swimming in the Great Lakes, it's still going to be quite refreshing for folks who are hopping in. And of course, just be cautious. We don't want any of that cold water shock to be something that you have to keep in mind, but it will help that temperatures are going to be warming up here in the long term. We're going to start to see some 80s come in. Even today, we're tracking mid 80s. And even tomorrow, we're going to be looking at the chance at 90s. Now, we do have that high set at 89. I wouldn't be surprised if we do have a handful of locations that do reach that 90-degree mark. But having some warm afternoons, it's going to help to maybe warm up the pool, warm up the pond, and warm up the Great Lakes. So we are going to find that that summer air is going to finally move in here. We've had a lot of 70s. Our average high sits at about 79 at this point in June. So we are going to start to kind of get into those summer details finally, kind of where we should be. We do have some rain here for the middle of this week. We'll talk about that storm potential, but that does allow our temperatures to cool out a little bit later this week, Thursday, even into the upper 70s, but we rebound nicely for Friday. So for your weekend plans, we're always kind of watching that forecast for you. Another thing that I do want to first alert you to is going to be not the 7-day just yet. I want to talk about humidity because we haven't really had a lot of it here, but we are going to find that it picks up this week. Dew points are already starting to increase. We're still seeing those into the 50s, which is still kind of in that pleasant category. But once we start to hit that dew point at about 60, that's when a lot of you say, oh, the humidity is back. And it is going to start to pick up here through the week. We'll have a lot of our dew points throughout Tuesday and Wednesday sitting throughout the 60s. When we hit that 70 mark, that's really kind of when everybody says it's simply uncomfortable outside. So we will find at times that we get close to that dew point at 70, and even getting closer to the weekend, we still see some humidity that's going to be sticking around. So not a ton of relief as we go into Thursday, just with those rain chances coming in for the middle and later half of this week. So just be prepared. It's going to be a sticky one. If you've been able to kind of avoid running your air conditioning, you may have to break down and turn on the switch to kind of keep it a little bit cooler inside. But if you love the warmer weather, you've been wanting to get outside, tonight's a pretty good barbecue night. Maybe you didn't get all of your taste buds fulfilled here over the weekend. So you are going to find temperatures, they're going to be into the 80s tonight. We will be looking at partly to mostly sunny skies. We've had just a handful of clouds, a little bit of cumulus development, but overall we are going to be keeping it fairly dry. But a little bit later on, we could have just some pop-ups. You'll kind of see that that's going to be the theme here in the forecast, that conditions can just kind of pop up with the heat and the humidity and a little bit of unstable air that's going to be in place. So that's why we're going to be keeping an eye to some storms. But also, if you want to go for some ice cream, if maybe you have the day off and you want to go and get something sweet, just know temperatures are going to be into the 80s. And even if you go tonight, it's still going to kind of be on the warm side. So you might have to have a little more concentration to the ice cream cone. You might have a little more dripping action than what you would like to see. And of course, we don't want to be wasteful when we're talking ice cream. And maybe you just want to go and get a dish so then you don't have to worry about it. So either way, highly recommend getting some ice cream. It'll kind of help keep you a little bit cooler as that summer heat is going to start to settle in. Now, speaking of summer thunderstorms, we do have quite a few rain chances here as we go through the week. We just kind of have the isolated evening chance here tonight and still some pop-up potential as we go into Tuesday. But it's really Wednesday that we are going to be watching for a low pressure system to come in. That can also linger into Thursday. So that's why we have our strongest rain chances for Wednesday and Thursday. And right now we have Friday dry, so we're going to try to keep the forecast a little bit drier going into the weekend. But again, our best chance is going to be on Wednesday, and that's kind of when we've been watching the potential for us to see some stronger thunderstorms come in. We are watching the potential for severe weather. So before we hop into that, we are going to take a real quick break, and we are going to make sure that though you are first alerted to all the latest information, and I'm going to kind of give you a behind the scenes here as well on what we are keeping an eye to in your first alert forecast. So we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. Welcome back. First Alert Meteorologist Diane Phillips with that promise of talking about strong to severe thunderstorms. With it being the summer season, we finally have an environment that's going to be looking a little bit more favorable, but the conditions as far as them lining up and the ingredients all coming together, that's going to be one of the things that we are tracking here as we go into our forecast. So that's why we do have that possibility of a first alert weather day on Wednesday. So we have not issued the day itself, but we are watching this time frame to see if our conditions can come together for us to be seeing these stronger thunderstorms. So there's still a lot of details to work out. The information in the weather models is a little bit muddy. I'm going to kind of go through some of the weather models and kind of show you some of the details that I'm having to work through, and maybe some of the things that I'm watching to say, oh, this may help the forecast, this may hurt the first alert forecast. So we're going to kind of dive into some of those details. I'm going to start here with one of our weather models that is in our weather computer. So we call this the graph model. And so as we go through today, I'll kind of give you a little bit here in the near term with the partly cloudy to mostly sunny skies for the afternoon. We will have the drier weather overnight, but as we go into Tuesday morning, you can see a little bit of that gray showing up towards our north and west. So we will have some isolated thunderstorms that are going to be possible. You can see here at 1 o'clock, just a couple of them trying to bubble up. So it's not going to be exactly a dry week, but considering we have the heat, we have the humidity, we do anticipate with any kind of lifting motion that we can get those storms going. So we will just have some isolated showers and thunderstorms that do come in. That's going to be something that we're watching here for the afternoon. But then overnight, as the heat kind of drops, we see our rain chances drop. But going into Wednesday, this rain chance is a little bit more scattered throughout the day. So this is also another factor that we're watching to see how well the rain coverage is in the morning and where those showers and thunderstorms do start to brew. I don't anticipate severe weather in the morning. We just don't have the energy at that point into the day. We also don't have that lift motion that we would need for these storms to get going. So as we go into the afternoon, we start to see a little bit of a build come in. So you can even see some thunderstorms sitting here along I-69. That is also something that the models have picked up on an outflow. So some storm action towards our south, then it tries to kind of push some cold air to populate those storms towards us. I haven't seen that in every weather model. This is just here in what is in our system. So we're kind of watching to see if that small element does come together in the forecast. But as the front itself, we're watching that to be towards the later evening and going into the overnight. And that's when we start to lose some of our better energy. That's also when you go to bed. So we could find that the timing is something that we have to monitor for this to pan out for us. But we will continue to watch those showers and thunderstorms come through, and hopefully then we can give that all clear shortly after midnight as far as the severe weather is concerned. Now, this is just one of our models that we have, and this is also why we're still kind of waiting to gather more data, because this is one of our short-term models, so we can kind of see, and I'm going to just let this go and kind of play ahead because it will show some of that pop-up potential going into Tuesday. But the whole storyline here is that our near-term model is only reaching till about Wednesday morning. So we can't even get a sampling of the afternoon with some of our more high-resolution data that we're able to kind of see a little bit better and kind of get some better sampling because it's in the near term. So that's why we are wanting to collect a little more data to kind of get that put in. Now, one of the other models that we have, I'm going to actually kind of slow this down here. So this is the European model. And this is going to start to bring some rainfall in. You can see kind of Wednesday evening, a little bit of that action ahead, but also you'll say, Diane, there's not a lot of reds, there's not a lot of oranges, like there must not be a lot happening here, but I'm still going to be leery. And I also want you to kind of keep in mind that this is kind of a broad resolution, so it's a little bit larger. It's harder to kind of pick up on maybe some of those oranges and reds and some of those smaller features because we are looking at the big picture when we check on this model. But we are going to see that that storm is going to try to come in a little bit later. And also you kind of see how it's a little bit broken there towards the state line. We've been watching that in a couple of our weather models. So that break, depending where that happens, can influence what we see further north. So it looks like here in mid-Michigan, we see a little more of that yellow coming in, the strong storm potential. However, it doesn't look all that great of it sticking together. So that means any little bit of movement, if that starts to break apart, it could actually break apart here in mid-Michigan, kind of limiting that threat for us. So there's quite a few elements to keep in mind. Also, this is midnight. We're losing a lot of heat by then and a lot of energy. So we're going to watch to see the timing of when this comes through and its location of when it comes as well. Now, one model that we have that's been a little bit more on the excited side for the storm potential is our NAM model. And I know that this is kind of really behind the scenes, but we have the time here in the digital world to go through that. So just kind of bear with me. Like I said, this one's a little bit excited. I don't really like the contouring on this because it just has a large amount of heavy rain. So this one is kind of an outlier per se, as far as it being that strong and that organized. This is also kind of a broad range look at it. So we're not getting kind of those small, fine details to see, but you can kind of find whatever you want in a lot of these models, because as I mentioned, that NAM model is very excited for severe weather to where others are not necessarily excited. So we are going through, we kind of know which models are a little bit excited, like that NAM model typically, and we can kind of know that that's going to always be a little bit on the stronger side. This is also our Canadian model coming in, so the timing, it looks like also it didn't process all the data correctly, so we can't get a good full look at this one. But let's just move on to our Storm Prediction Center outlook. So this is going to be our day 3. I know a lot of you see these on social media and you go, oh, severe weather, I need to be watching and being mindful, and that's of course what we want you to be mindful of, is that we do have that strong storm potential. So again, this would be Wednesday. We do have that slight risk, which is about a level 2 out of 5, and that's going to be coming through Isabella, Midland, just cutting into Southern Bay County, including Saginaw, cutting through Lapeer and Tuscola counties, and then further south and west. I do anticipate some changes. If we do see some changes come in on this map, I would anticipate that some of them would maybe be probably a level 3 coming here, may try to sneak in towards I-69, but I do anticipate maybe seeing some upgrades here around the Detroit area and then into far southeast Michigan. And then I wouldn't be surprised if we maybe do see some of this yellow kind of pushed a little bit further north. These would be some of the changes that I would be monitoring. So just keep in mind that some of these changes though would come closer to Wednesday rather than even this afternoon or tomorrow. I do anticipate an update tomorrow morning to this map, and they may keep it steady. They may just kind of want to see how that data looks as we go into Tuesday and then Wednesday, because that's when we're going to start to get some of that near-term data. Remember, the one wasn't even reaching out to the storm Wednesday night. So once we can kind of get a little sampling, a little bit better taste, that will help. Now, of course, a lot of our data, we've kind of been looking at skew-Ts, which skew-Ts are where we kind of see our upper atmosphere image come in. I don't have any here in our system to show you those, but that's where we track our ingredients on severe weather threats, and that's also where we get our weather balloon data. So since we have been seeing some limitations in the weather balloons, we are finding that some of our data has been a little bit slower to kind of process. So that's why this decision, it's not necessarily that we're just kind of waiting for that answer to come in. We just want to make sure that we're getting all the best data before we can make that decision for you. So before we talk about threats and then some of the hiccups that we can have in the forecast, we are going to take another quick break and we'll be right back. Welcome back. As promised, we are going to be talking about some of those severe severe thunderstorm threats that we have in our forecast. Starting with the wind, because this has kind of been something that's been pretty dominant in our forecast as far as the main threat, and that's still going to be something that we're really watching for. If this line can get developed, it can have a lot of winds that are kind of pushing out, more of a straight line wind factor. There is still some wind shear, which wind shear is your winds that are rotating as they go higher into the atmosphere, which causes that spin and that rotation. So we do have that tornado threat sitting in the low. Now, right now, with us not having kind of that full near-term picture, we may be able to bump that back into the low category, but it is still something that we're watching. However, it's not very high though, so we're not able to quite put it into the green as we can find an environment that, though it may not have the strongest of energy, it can have just enough rotation, and with a cold front kind of lifting it to get everything spinning and rotating. So we're going to be watching for that. That large hail potential is also there. I've been seeing some of those hail numbers come in, and those have been a little bit on the stronger and larger side. So we will be watching for the potential of severe hail within these storms. We haven't had a ton. We did have, of course, that hailstorm earlier in the month, or actually in May already. Can you believe it? Time is going by pretty quickly here, but we are going to find that wind and hail would be our main concerns within this one. Some heavy rain also going to be possible where we have those thunderstorms. Again, that big question is or are the storms going to be holding together? So as we kind of look at that severe thunderstorm chance, one of the things that can hurt it is going to be Wednesday morning. If we have that rain come in, that can kind of stabilize the air for us, and then we'd have to rebuild an environment that doesn't really have a lot of energy going to it yet. So that rebuilding time can kind of hinder some afternoon thunderstorm development. I do see the potential for us though to have that window to kind of bake an environment back up, to have it be a little bit on the stronger and summer storm side, but it's still something to consider. Also the timing. When does the cold front arrive? Is it going to arrive when we have our peak heat of the day, or still some heat and the sun is up, or is it going to come in around bedtime or even closer towards midnight, and that's when we kind of lose some of that energy? So the timing of the cold front is also going to be very important for us. Another thing that I don't have listed here is also going to be the dynamics. How well does this storm hold together? It looks like we can have just a couple of pieces that are going to be kind of the main drivers, and do those stick together and create a uniform cloud formation, or are we going to find that that kind of breaks apart? And then the question is where does it break apart? When I'm looking here at some of these systems that come in, I kind of see something that looks a little bit more familiar to a storm that we had pretty early in the spring, to where we saw that it would come through and then it would break apart. And then here in mid-Michigan, we didn't see a lot of activity from it. So we will be watching for all of these factors to be coming into the forecast here as we put that together. So that's why we do still have that severe thunderstorm, or excuse me, the first alert weather day possible for Wednesday, because that would be when we have that best chance of the best ingredients lining up. But still right now, it's not necessarily a slam dunk forecast on if we can see those severe criteria being met for these storms to take off. As we take a look at your full 7-day forecast, we do have the temperatures, as we had talked about earlier, that are going to be holding on into the 80s. Tomorrow going to be pretty warm, probably shorts and tank tops, as we are going to be getting closer towards 90s. We will also find some isolated pop-up showers and thunderstorms that'll be coming through on Tuesday. Again, Wednesday, that's going to be that scattered severe thunderstorm potential. Again, the severe part a little bit closer towards the back half of the day and into the evening. And then on Thursday, we are going to find some wraparound rain and even some thunderstorms in the mix still. Now that is going to be Juneteenth, so of course we have services and events that are going to be happening. So make sure you're kind of keeping an eye if you're going to be going to one of those planned events, that you have your First Alert weather app with you, so then you can kind of keep an eye to the rain, because it will be on the backside of the storm. It will be a little bit broken when it comes through, so we might be able to get those events and not even have to worry about that rainfall coming in. Friday, thankfully, we've been able to kind of keep that dry for the first day of summer. Again, that's going to start closer to about 9:42 p.m. for the solstice. But going into Saturday, we do have some showers and thunderstorms that we're still watching for. And then we really start to see some heat in the long term. Late into the weekend and early next week, we do see a jump in the numbers coming in. We may have to add another 90, or our first 90 on that 7-day forecast. We'll see what tomorrow brings, but we may be able to add some 90s in as we go into that week coming up. So there's a lot to keep an eye to in this forecast. Again, Wednesday, we do have the potential for a First Alert weather day. So make sure you have the First Alert weather app. This is going to be kind of the main place where you can get the latest information on what we're tracking. And of course, we're going to have another update tomorrow at 2 o'clock. And if we've made any decisions, if we need to upgrade or downgrade it, or maybe we just need to hold possible to kind of keep gathering that data before that decision's made, of course, we'll update you in the app, and then of course we'll update you here at the desk. As always, we are on Facebook, we are on YouTube. We start this at 2 o'clock Monday through Friday. You can also catch us at WNEM.com and on your TV5 News app. We do send push alerts on those products to remind you that we hang out here at 2 o'clock, but also we do stream to our Roku and Fire Stick channels, also Android and Apple TV. We're there too. So if you don't catch us here during the day, you can always kind of recap and watch us a little bit later. So we do encourage you to kind of check back in with us. The beauty of the technology is that you can replay at any time wherever you are at. So we thank you again for joining us here this afternoon. Have a fantastic Monday, and we will see you back here tomorrow at 2 o'clock.